Okay, in this lab, you're going to create some random study sites. Why randomize? Because sometimes you need to eliminate or prevent selection bias. So we don't want any of these study sites to have spatial autocorrelation to them, so we're going to randomly create a set of points. We're going to overestimate what we might need, and then randomly select a subset from the sites that meet all of our requirements for the sites. So we need all the sites to be on BLM land. They need to be 10 meters in diameter, and we'd like them to be near low traffic roads. And for the roads, we're going to use the proxy of speed limit for low traffic, which isn't necessarily true, but it'll work for what we need to do. So, you don't always want randomly selected sites, and sometimes those parameters, for example, we don't want our study sites to be on Forest Service land or to be on private land. They do need to be on BLM, so it's not completely random, but it's good to know both ways. Okay, so you have land ownership data. That's where you're going to find the BLM stuff. You're going to create buffers, and you've got roads with the attribute of speed limit that you can use for low traffic. You should be able to do most of this without any instructions. You know how to run geoprocessing tools, so some of the instructions you get are just to help with familiarity with ArcPro, and then some of it you will just be left to do on your own. One new tool you're going to learn is the Create Random Points tool. And like I said, overestimate and create a lot of them so that you can always subset out 50 from the larger group. It's easier than rerunning the whole analysis again because you ended up with 47. Buffering you know how to do, and then at the final, when you get your 50 perfect locations, you're going to automate a 50-page map book for a field crew. Okay, so here's the Create Random Points tool. Remember that you can use these information buttons to read about how to set up the tool. The constraining feature class could be something like BLM land. You don't need this. In lieu of a constraining feature class, something that would bound your points, actually you'd probably use Utah here, you could use constraining extents like north, south, east, west. You can determine how many points you want created. You're going to want probably at least 1,000. And you can set rules about how far the remaining or the points can be from each other. If you don't want them within 10 meters of each other, for example, you might put in an offset there. Okay, so just to visualize it, the polygons here are different land cover types. Green is BLM, the yellow could be Forest Service or private or something like that. And then you have a roads data set that has attributes showing that some of the roads are lower speed limit and some are freeways or highways. You're going to create random points and overestimate, and then you're going to buffer those points. Now these buffers at 10 meters are not very big, so at the scale of Utah, you're not going to even notice that anything was created. So you're going to need to zoom in to verify if that step worked. You don't need the original points, so you can just work with the buffers after that. And then you're going to select all of the points that are within BLM land, and that's going to eliminate a whole bunch of points. So we've already cut way down from 1,000. Then we're going to run a select by location again and only choose the points that are within a distance of the low speed limit roads. Okay, so yeah, that's the general workflow. For anyone who's super curious, and you're absolutely welcome to make square plots instead of circles, you can create square buffers, and you do it using a tool called the envelope. I can't remember, it's called like envelope to Polygon or something like that. The idea is that it'll take any input features, points, lines, or actually points probably, it would be, well, I think you'd have to use points with some kind of an attribute that's shared. But here the buffers, it takes the maximum extent north, south, east, west of the coordinate values and creates an envelope that this shape could fit in, but obviously square or rectangular. So going by the largest extent values. So you could run your buffers and then run this, it's here, oh yeah, feature envelope to Polygon. Oh yeah, in order for it to work on points, it would have to be a multi-point feature, which we're not going to get into. But you can see here that if you had a line, it takes the maximum and minimum extent values and creates an envelope that you could put this feature in. It's pretty clever. So yeah, if you want to make square plots, go for it. The last step is to create a map series, and this is an automated thing. I don't want you making 50 individual map pages because that's ridiculous. Basically, if you have a map like the globe underneath here, and then you have a shapefile with a bunch of different features in it, map series, the data-driven pages, creates a multi-page output where it zooms to each one of these extents of each feature and then shows you the map at that location. And each one of these creates a separate page in your map book. So what's great about that for you is that you'll have this data set that has 50 random locations all over Utah on BLM land. And instead of zooming to each one of those and then exporting a PDF and then stitching the PDFs all together, you're just going to input your index layer as those 50 study sites, and then you've got some kind of a base map. You set up one page, you hit go, and it goes, and it just outputs a whole bunch of pages for you. The idea is that a field crew could take those out to the field, make notes on them. They could take a digital copy and make notes on them. So the thing to notice about this is two different map series setups is that each page is set up the exact same. So the frame or the layout doesn't change at all. It's only the extent on the inside that changes. The scale can change if each one of your features has a different scale. It's going to center the feature, within the map frame and scale it accordingly. So you can see that there is some dynamic text on the page, like A1, A2, so each feature has its own name. And there's a feature in the map series where you can add dynamic text. So it's basically making a page number on here and flipping through as you go. You can have it dynamically add coordinate values on each page. It's pretty slick what you can do. This index here, I don't know how to do this. I've had students do this in the past manually, where they go through and highlight which feature it is. If anyone wants to figure out how to do kind of a dynamic index as a table of contents, extra credit points for sure. But you have to write it up for me. Okay, and then this one, obviously the state outlines were used as the index files. So for each page, it's going to go through and center each shape outline, and everything else on the page remains the same. This is dynamic text. It's being pulled from the attribute table. But other than that, you can see everything's just the exact same. These maybe were added later, the inset map, because it's not appearing on every page, so maybe there was a script where they specified, or they went back in and edited it and created that. Okay, so here's where it is. It's on the Layout tab in the page setup. Click Map Series, and it opens up kind of a wizard for you. Clicking on Map Series here, this is kind of the button that you have to be the most aware of. The rest of it is just really fun to dig through and see what you can do. Optional fields, map extent, just kind of play around with all these. But once you check this box to enable it, when you hit share, 50 pages are going to come out. If you want to export one JPEG or one PDF of a single page, maybe for your website or the discussion board, you have to uncheck this box, or every time you hit share, it's going to spit out 50 pages and it'll drive you completely crazy. So yeah, just be aware of that. But that's it. It should be a fun lab. It should be a nice break from this first week of climate symbology shenanigans. If you have any questions, let me know.